Yo, this is Quentin Moore chilling in the Cigar Lounge.
This is the Captain, Hobo King 82. Hi, guys! Yo, this is MJ from Hot Garbage Cigar Club, and you're watching Cigar Loungin Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Cigar Loungin Podcast. I am your host, the local hero. Here with my guest today from Domain Cigars, Daniel. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. Thanks for having us on the podcast. Really appreciate it. Glad to be here. And you go by local hero, but what's your first name?
Anthony. Anthony's my first name.
Anthony. Okay, it's a pleasure to meet you, Anthony.
All right, so where was I? I was at in Cigar Lounge hopping since I got here. Oh, I was at Ash and Anvil. We was talking about cigars, and he was like, "Oh, have you tried them, Mommy?" I'm like, "Yeah, I tried it," and I actually just did a show with him. Like, "Have you tried Domain?" I'm like, "No, I never even heard Domain." Like, "Oh yeah, he's a local guy. You should definitely hit him up." So I tried the cigar. Like, this cigar is good, and I was like, "Let me hit him up. Let's see what's happening." So if I ask you the same thing, I would ask anybody else. Why Kansas?
What? Well, so I'm originally from California, so I had to immigrate, and it's very different here in Kansas. But really, my mother's living here in Kansas. She's been here a very long time. I live in Nicaragua, majority of the last 6 years. However, I've maintained a little apartment, which I'm in right now, actually. This is actually a little studio I put together in my living room for these types of things. But so I still have connections to Kansas, still come back quite a bit. That's it. This is a tough time of year to be in Kansas. It's really cold. So much rather be at this beautiful farm that I have in my background, where it's nice and warm right now. But so that's why Kansas. Are you, Anthony? Are you not from the area?
No. I've been here for about 4 months now. Originally from Chicago, but I came here from the East Coast. I went to school out there. Lived out there for a little bit. My brother had been here for about 10 years, so I came out here. What got you into cigars?
Yeah, so you got the familial ties here in Kansas. That's good.
Yeah, that's what you because I never heard of it. I never saw these places. I'm like, what the hell is that? But as I'm here, I'm starting to explore around, check out lounges and everything. Yeah.
No, we have a great little city here, a huge cigar scene, really. Whenever I got into cigars, it was 18 years ago, and wasn't nearly as large of a cigar scene here in Kansas City. There's probably about 3 times the number of cigar shops now. What really got me into it was my niece was born, my nieces and nephews, and I would get a cigar to celebrate. They're all now getting a little bit older, dating myself a little bit, but I would get a cigar to celebrate, and then it turned into kind of a weekly, monthly type of thing. And then whenever I found the whole community behind cigars and all of the technical details about cigars and all the unique things that make this industry what it is, that are so attractive and alluring to all of us. That's really what locked me in. I mean, I became a guy that worked at a cigar lounge. I always thought my career was going to go into, because it was going into the medical space originally. And then shortly after that, it went really deep into the cybersecurity space. And, cigars were always there. I always worked part-time at a lounge somewhere. I always had a secondary or weekend job closing a cigar lounge in the evenings and things like that. So worked at a lounge here, Fidel's, in Kansas City for a number of years. Also helped open the South store of Outlaw Cigar, and then I went on to run their North store for a period of time as well. So just the communal aspects of it was something I was missing in my life, as many younger people are. And I think that also, made it a very attractive thing for me to pursue. And I always met just really stand-up individuals in this community. So how about yourself?
I'm going to say, probably, let me see. Got to be about, 25? About 15 years ago. Me and my boys, my co-host, he normally on the show with me, but he had to do something today. It was New Year's. We just, was like, man, let's do something different. We got, we drink all the time. He's like, let's try a cigar. It's one of our buddies. He had a little more experience than us. We got cigars. I remember my buddy telling the story, like, man, he like, everybody was coughing except for him. I was like, oh, he gonna keep doing this shit. And he said, but it took him a while. He got into it too. It took him a while, but then he finally got into it. Because before then, I wouldn't be smoking like that. After that, I was just like, one time, man, and I was just hooked.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things, when you discover the community behind, cigars, and especially now that we have this really strong lounge atmosphere, it was uncommon, 20 plus years ago, my understanding that, many cigar shops were grab and go, you'd buy and leave. And, actually it was by nature of all the regulations that happened with cigars, prohibiting us from smoking at bars and different things like that. And, really limiting the public space that kind of actually built a big part of the community, because all of us got to know each other, started putting together lounges. Many of us started working at cigar shops and things of that nature. So it really kind of formed what is our modern culture today through, frankly, the fact that people didn't want us, smoking in bars anymore, didn't care for us to be smoking in restaurants, certainly. So
I'll get the restaurant, but the bar, come on now.
Yeah.
It's bars. Yeah. I remember I went to school in Pennsylvania, and I promise you, it was bars. I went to this one bar. Smoking was permitted, except for cigars.
Yeah.
I go to light up my cigar. Yeah. It was me and my buddies. We go to light up our cigar. Everybody smoking cigarettes. We go to light up our cigar, and they say, "Oh, you guys, we can't have. There's no cigar smoking in here."
Yeah.
I said, "You can smoke cigarettes, but not cigar." We gone. We just left on them.
Yeah, no, I think that became all too common for cigar smokers, and it became a scenario where everyone kind of banded together, got to know each other. And as far as smoking in bars, I mean, I think it was a big misstep for a lot of cities to go after that. Bars that didn't want smoking already had exclusion areas and had smoking permitted areas that are outside of the bar. But yeah, that was probably a pretty big mistake in the case of regulators, especially being that the community ended up getting to know each other more and putting together establishments that were, much more hardened to regulation. And we're still seeing a lot of impact from that desire to overregulate cigars and tobacco in the United States. But hopefully we'll get some more common sense type of approaches. I think if your business wants to allow smoking, or if your business wants to allow any legal thing that men and women who are adults want to partake in, I feel like your business ought to be able to make that decision for themselves. But a lot of people at the cities don't seem to see it that way. So
yeah, I agree with you. I agree, because I mean, at that point, they only going to attract certain type of clientele. If they say, okay, you smoke in here, then they know the type of people that bring it in there. So I think that should be a business decision too. Like, I understand in the restaurant, that makes sense. You got your food and everything. But like in a bar, it makes no sense in a bar to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, NBA game. Like, remember you used to watch the NBA videos? They used to be out there courtside. The stream was as smoky as hell.
But that's what created that beautiful glow in a lot of those photos. You look at the old NBA photos and even MLB photos and all this kind of stuff, where you see that glow kind of over the crowd and everything like that haze. A lot of that starriness in the background was due to the fact that they designed a lot of these arenas without very great ventilation, which was kind of interesting, because they knew at the time people were going to smoke. It was always going to be that way. But smoking in airplanes and things of that nature, I mean, I could see how that got impacted, right? But now you can't bring a bag of peanuts, so it's so we've I think we might have lost the goal of what people were really trying to do. But And I know there's allergies. There's people that suffer from allergies, of course. So we try to accommodate, but yeah. So I think it just forged this unique community, and I think that really brought even more of us in, and certainly impacted my relationship with tobacco.
Mm-hmm. Now, Unite, where does the name come from?
So Domain Cigar started its life originally as Domain Coffee Company. So I owned a coffee company, and we did cold brew coffee. We were in hundreds of stores all around the Kansas City, Missouri area, and we were in all the grocery stores that you're familiar with from the area. And what ended up happening was, as we entered the pandemic, that greatly changed working on projects such as that. I had been doing that for more than 3 years. I already had a house in Nicaragua as well. So the clean breakover into winding down that company wasn't due to it not being successful. It was due to the juice not really being worth the squeeze. I had many hundreds of accounts, but to continue working those accounts and competing with some of my biggest rivals in the coffee business, which you can imagine are billion-dollar companies, to continue doing that at the level that we were doing it at, I really needed to be in store and working, hand in hand with retailers, and just simply wasn't possible. Wasn't possible given those conditions, and so unfortunately, Domain Coffee Company went away, and I didn't really have any goal of starting a cigar company. That was never my agenda with moving to Nicaragua. Like I said before, I worked in cybersecurity, and I was very successful in cybersecurity. And part of that job wound up having me traveling to Europe and Asia frequently, and that created a scenario where I was constantly somewhere where I didn't know the language, didn't know the culture all that well, and having to make do. And I took a trip with a retailer friend of mine down to Nicaragua. He would go regularly, and we went down there. I loved it. I told him, my first time down, I was like, don't let me buy a house my first time down to Nicaragua. And because every time I had been to Latin America, Central America, South America, I just always really loved it. And really great people, salt of the earth kind of people. And so I had to take a trip to London, and I was supposed to go on to Jordan, the country of Jordan, and they wouldn't let me enter because of my cybersecurity background. There was a problem there, and so I'm standing in Heathrow, and I have to buy a ticket, and it was $3,000 to go back to Nicaragua. It was $5,000 to go back to my home in Kansas. So I called my boss at the time at this startup that I was working with, and I go, "Do you care where I live?" And he goes, "Absolutely not." So I hopped on a plane, flew back to Nicaragua, literally brought a farm like that next week, and got a farm. We actually had it as a rental. Myself and the other retailer actually moved there. And it was fantastic. It was a great time. So I would do my cybersecurity meetings, and I would have like a video conference or something like that. I had a microwave radio on top of my house to give me internet access because we were kind of in the hillside. And there's a little church there in Esteli that I would ping the radio off of to get my signal. And and after I'd get done with my meetings for the day, I would go tour a factory. I would, get invited to factories, and it was great. I got to learn, a lot about how these factories operated and their agricultural side. And, so I had already worked at that point in retail for more than a decade in various capacities, working with cigar shops, consulting with them, helping with mergers and acquisitions of cigar shops. So I had a lot of experience there, and I built a lot of, successful businesses, both in the cybersecurity space and otherwise. So, the keen reason why I wasn't looking towards starting a cigar brand was I knew how difficult it was to start that venture. And without a partner like I have now, Esteban Disla, There was just not going to be an opportunity to really, give it its a just worthy try.
Okay. That's crazy. So you're just like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get this farm right now. I'm here. Let me just go ahead and buy this farm.
So we didn't grow any tobacco on the farm. Though we didn't have enough water for that. So they only grew frijoles and beans and stuff like that. So it wasn't a tobacco farm or anything like that. But it was a great community. Really, really great community up in the hillside. Still thankful for my time there and kind of getting to know the country and everything like that, the people of the country. So it's a really great experience.
Now, from what I heard, it is like a cigar community that is very, very tight knit. Rollers, makers, all those guys like really tight knit. They interchange. Yep. A lot of times they send people that help roll or was that like a culture shock? Like, so for instance, like we're so competitive here when we do stuff, right? Mm-hmm. Was that like kind of like a shock for you, like how willingly they cooperate, or was just something that we just do in the cigar community?
There's they don't have the same cigar culture. It's not around the consumer product of cigars. They don't really have a culture built around that. There is a culture around manufacturing. There's kind of a culture around quality of manufacturing and approaches to tobacco, conventions or archetypes, you might say, in this business that kind of supersedes ideas that we would otherwise advance. So I think anytime an American leaves their country and decides to attempt to be an immigrant of another country and really take that seriously, you're going to be learning quite a bit, and you're going to be experiencing a lot of things that are foreign to you, I see why there's a lot of Americans that haven't gone that approach. I definitely understand it. That really breaks down to what do you need to be successful? Like what satisfies you about owning a cigar brand that you would have to have in your cigar brand. Again, I wasn't going there to do that. I was really going there and learning the other side of a industry and a business that I had come to really love and admire. And I was fortunate enough to have these people welcome me in and teach me what they knew, and I just had to be smart enough to listen to them. It's definitely there are some differences in people that just run factories or people that just work on the agricultural side, and then those of us that do both and broker to both. I would say that there's maybe like I said, a different set of archetypes that might aspire to be one or the other based on their relationship to cigars. But definitely the communal aspects are not there the same way that we would think about them in the States. There's no cigar lounges, for example, where you meet up with everybody at the end of the day and talk business or otherwise. That doesn't really happen.
So let's say you can give advice to somebody who aspiring to start a cigar company. What advice would you give them?
There's a lot. So I've written about this on our blogs on our factory website. Our factory website is tbfdsa.com, and I have a blog on there about collaborating with us if you would like to work with us. But I would say, stepping back and evaluating what number of problems you're willing to solve, and financially how equipped you might be to actually solve those problems can be a big way of guiding what your cigar brand is going to bring to market. the brand for us, really proves out the two other things that we're quite passionate about. We're quite passionate about growing tobacco. We're quite passionate about manufacturing the best cigars that we possibly can. And the brand itself is an evaluation of our capability to do those two things and do them at a world-class level. So that financially might be outside of an area of investment that many people are willing to take. In fact, when I moved down there, I didn't plan on any of this happening, but just shy of 2 years after I moved down there, I'd built so many relationships with people. I got to know my business partner and his family. The entire Disla family are fantastic people to work with, and just really good, decent human beings, right? I mean, they're great people. But getting to know them and then finding an opportunity where we could work together was not something that I really saw happening, but when it did, there was really no other group of people that I wanted to work with. So a lot of people will not maybe be that lucky or that fortunate, but I also spent 2 years contemplating that idea, and it was just never going to work if I didn't have someone like Esteban Disla to work with. Esteban had a track record as being one of the most famous factory owners in Esteli, and very notorious in that community for putting out just absolute top shelf product. Whenever he made the decision to go into agriculture, I was right there with him, but I was following along. I wasn't financially invested at that point. He had all the favors and connections that he needed to succeed at that period of time. But in total, I mean, each of us are probably north of $1 million invested in this idea. And, a lot of people that want to start a cigar brand, they want to see their name on a label, or they have a cool packaging concept, or maybe they just, really aspire to come out with a couple of blends that they've been thinking about, and it's frustrated them to the point where they're considering launching a brand. Those might be all good reasons to start out on that venture, but I wanted to do something, if I were ever going to put my name on a cigar company and in any form, do something that was actually going to contribute to the overall narrative of our community. And that's what we're really trying to do, is we're trying to redefine how conventions in cigar making have been playing out. A lot of these people in these communities aren't even known. The actual cigar maker, oftentimes you don't even know the name of. And the brand manager, which is kind of like knowing the team owner, right? But you don't know who the quarterback is, and who the lineman is, and so on, to use a sports reference. So we wanted to actually kind of break down that wall and start showing cigar making for what it actually was, and show our direct contributions through that. And I think we could be doing a lot better in communicating that message. But we try to do as many podcasts and events like this to try to share exactly what it is Domain Cigars and Tabacalera family and Disla are really trying to achieve. So I know that's a bit of an elongated answer, but the reality is if you're attempting to get into cigars, I mean, I see a lot of projects that are just grossly underfunded, and I think even just starting a simple brand and properly funding that and putting it on the market and helping solve problems for retailers along the way is going to be something that you're going to spend a couple $100,000 on, really, just to get your feet wet. And unfortunately, there's a lot of projects that are just underfunded, and several years down the road, they end up going away. It's unfortunate. I've seen it. I've seen it in friends of mine that have come to the Valley that I've got to know pretty well. But that would be probably one of the biggest areas that I would be concerned with, would be longevity, because it is a business that demands a lot of you. So.
Wow, that's a good answer. That was a great answer, actually. I like that.
Okay.
So let me ask you this.
Appreciate it.
If you could smoke with anybody in history, living or not, who would it be with and why?
Oh boy. Yeah. So it has to be one person. Could it be a group of people or something? I don't know.
Okay, I'll give you a group. I'll give you a group. I'll give you a group.
Yeah, a group. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a complete hypothetical. I'm not great at these, but yeah, Einstein or someone like that. I don't know. That I'll answer that today. We'll do Einstein. So, someone like that. I mean, he was a prolific pipe smoker, but I think I would maybe like his evaluation of our cigars, maybe. But so, I don't know. I feel fortunate every time I get to smoke with my friend. I get to do this for a living, and that's incredible. I'm 36 years old. It's not lost on me how unusual our story is. And that Esteban and I, Esteban, who's 51, have been able to come together to build this. It's not lost on me how unique that is. So really, if you ask me today my answer might be Esteban, because I haven't seen the guy now in a couple of months. I've been in the States, working like crazy. So, yeah, I guess in history, maybe Einstein. I don't know. What would you answer?
Me, anybody? I got a couple. Maybe Michael Jordan or Bill Russell. It one of them two. Because I know both of them smoke cigars, so it'd be an interesting conversation.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. No, I think Michael's fairly gettable. I think people run into him in lounges sometimes, actually. I have smoked cigars with a lot of famous people, but I don't always know who's famous because I don't follow a whole lot of sports or anything like that. But I've smoked a lot of cigars with different famous football players and TV personalities and stuff like that. But that's the great equalizer, though. Is if you're sitting down and smoking a cigar, then you can carry on and have a conversation with just about anybody, and you find out that we all have pretty similar concerns and trials and tribulations, and sometimes you walk away and you solve all the world's problems, and sometimes sometimes everyone just bitches and complains about how work was this week and stuff like that, but it's a great equalizer.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I met a lot of people do cigar smoking, and also let me ask you this: do you think now, with the social media is designed, of how we can meet each other and be talking these things, you think now that with the social media platforms that we now have, that it's easier to try to get into the business rather than it was back in the day when it's word of mouth or you going knocking on doors?
I think there's probably an over reliance on social media, particularly for new building brands. If you take so break down the entire market of cigars, right? You have about 5,000 brands, right, at any given time. And that includes, all kinds of brands that are in limited amounts of quantities and distribution and so on. But you got about 5,000. So take 2% of that. So now you got about 100 brands. That's what's going to make more than 1 million cigars under one label. Is approximately 100 of those will make 1 million cigars under one mark, right, or one brand. If you take their social media followings, just calculate up all their social media followings, it's not remotely close to 5% of total consumption, right? In fact, it's actually tremendously lower than that 5% of total consumption, and the number of people that are actually inspired by influence based on that social media engagement tends to be relatively minimal. Your actual capture rate tends to be pretty minimal. So we've even done advertising campaigns and things of that nature with some of our partners, some different companies that I was early investor in, and so on. And we've seen 100,000 plus hit views on our videos and different ads that we've built and worked with retailers on, so that we have a full sales channel and pipeline. And your actual conversion rate is less than 1%. So I think the over appraisal of social media a lot of times might lead people to believing that they're maybe going to have a larger influence in the overall cigar market because they have a large following or something like that. None of that will fix having bad cigars, poorly marketed, poor retailer relations, all those types of things that are, really pretty important to the business. So in fact, I've probably noticed a over reliance on under manufacturing cigars, under packaging, brown paper packaging and things of that nature. And we have a big social media following, so we're just going to take really pretty photos and it'll sell because of that. I think that's a hard trail to go down. So as far as connecting and learning about products, I think that there's certainly a good group of people that learn about products, but you have to realize that 95% of the entire cigar market does not smoke cigars every day. They smoke cigars once a week, twice a week, once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month. That's 95% of the cigar market. So if that's 95%, then marketing towards those people on social media platforms or capturing 95% of the market is going to be really challenging if you're reliant entirely on digital outreach. So our strategy was really to look at that 5% that are in cigar lounges every day, communicate heavily and effectively to those individuals, and allow them to actually define essentially a third of the company, which is the communal aspects, right? We have the tobacco. We have some of the best tobacco that we grow in-house today. We have great cigars, right? We've packaged and tried to do our duty to continue to enhance and make it easy to fall in love with our company. I'm just speaking very straightforward here. But the community aspect is what's actually going to always push us over the edge. And a lot of that is going to happen word of mouth. Podcasts like this are fantastic because people like these long form type of interviews and conversation. And if you're not doing this, then you need to cram all of that messaging into about 15 seconds. That's really tough. It's really tough. I've had friends like go to our factory and go to our farms, and I ask them, how well are we communicating what we're actually doing? Because when you see it, it's massive. It's a huge operation that we run today for Domain Cigars. And they always come back with kind of the same responses, like, I don't really know how you capture all of this and how you summarize it. And so we try to just do as much as possible to communicate it. But yeah, I think social media is unique, but I think there's maybe an over reliance on it right now, particularly with how unfavorable some of these platforms are to our community.
So I told you we had me and some buddies having a conversation about that. Because a lot of their pictures got taken down or they got strikes for the pictures. But it's crazy the stuff that you're allowed to show on social media. Like the stuff
wild.
that don't get
that's so
stuff
wild.
that don't get, man. It's crazy. They're like, well, because for some reason they think that us
Yeah, it's very wild.
Because their whole thing was, well, you can be influencing children. I'm like, did you see some of the videos that y'all allow on here?
Right.
Cigar smoking is the least of your concerns with some of this stuff.
I completely agree. There's a lot of adult content clearly today on those platforms. There's obviously still a lot of marketing of adult beverages and things of that nature. And I'm not any kind of prude. If you're into that kind of stuff, it's, it's totally fine. I just don't know how, certainly the firearms industry, not real happy with how social media has treated them. But we are the second most regulated product. Tobacco is, and cigars is, of course, in that category. The most regulated is going to be the firearms industry, and the third most is going to be alcohol for consumer products. And it would be maybe more wisely suited to say, I mean, if this person is in fact of age and a consenting adult, that they can engage in what they choose to. I think that's probably the right approach, particularly for the United States. But certainly some of these platforms have discretion, and they use that discretion to modify posts and to modify narratives and stories. I've seen a couple of retailers recently that have bars. They have licensed bars in their cigar shops, and they post about new liquors or new beers or things of that nature. And of course, they're advocating this for sale, and the platforms are completely against that now. But you can buy advertising to advocate for its sell, right? So it's quite interesting how some of this is broken out.
Oh yeah, if you pay them, they don't care.
Yeah,
if you give them money, they'll run it to everybody they can. But if you do it on your own, that's where the problem come in at.
Yeah, I agree. If they're getting their share, then they're all in. So.
Oh yeah, as I said, a lot of guys putting their advertising in their videos now instead of letting YouTube or whoever sell it, because they're gonna take the lion's share of it and probably give you a percentage of it, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if they can't make money, I remember they gave us a strike. We was doing something for Purpletober. We had a raffle. All the proceeds, everything went to Purpletober. Went to this domestic abuse center in Maryland.
Sure.
And luckily they let me done it. So as soon as I was done, they started striking the videos. Luckily the raffle was already over, but like that day they started striking all the videos. Talking about it was paid advertising and all this. I'm like, no, you obviously didn't listen to none of the videos. So yeah, they can get paid for it. They want it.
Yeah, it's a big problem. I mean, even working with charities, being a tobacco company, working with charities represents some problems. I had a part in a cigar club at one point in time, and we had probably 200 some odd members. I was a member, and we would raise money each year for cancer, and unrelated to tobacco, of course. It was actually a different type of cancer entirely that a friend of ours, Bob, had passed away from. And we would raise money, and we had to first give that money as a donation to a third party before the charity would actually accept it. So they wouldn't accept it from our cigar club, which our cigar club was also a nonprofit. So it was it was quite interesting how they had decided to behave with tobacco. So I don't really fully appreciate some of that, because there's a lot of claims that people make about our product that I feel are not fully substantiated, and I'm optimistic that some of that will be demystified at some point in the future. But also, if there is something that we could learn, we're open to learning. But in all the time that I've been working in tobacco and now growing tobacco, and 18 years now that I've been smoking cigars, I just don't see a lot of these concerns through my own personal experience. And I'm always looking for something that isn't anecdotal. And I continue to be brought very anecdotal explanations of why our product is treated different. the natives, the natives had some very advanced ideas of what tobacco was and what it meant to humans. And we're even seeing some great new research around NACs and how those are being used in all types of therapeutic care. Of course, smoking itself is, I always tell people, if I ate a bag of potato chips at the same rate that I smoke cigars, I probably wouldn't be here anymore, So, diet certainly is something that you have to focus on. But so it's quite interesting. But that doesn't really exist in other places in Central America and South America. People smoke and people drink, and as long as they're doing it in good moderation, and I believe in Costa Rica they have some of the longest lifespans in all the Americas. I mean, their average lifespan is like up in the 80s, or it's not uncommon to see a 100-year-old person riding a horse down the road in Costa Rica. That's pretty wild if you go down there. So. And we have some of that as well in Nicaragua. We have some people that work on agriculture with us that when you find out how old they are, it's like, oh my goodness, like you're in your 70s and you're working on tobacco and not driving up in the pickup truck to observe they're actually working in the farms, and this is very, very laborious work, very intense work. Yeah, it's quite interesting. So I've been given a lot of anecdotal excuses for why tobacco is treated the way it is in the States, and I've just never fully agreed with the position that some people have chosen to take. But like I was stating earlier, it's created this community through regulation, and I would never change anything about that community today moving forward. I think that tight community, that tight bond, that you can be out somewhere traveling somewhere and bump into a person smoking a cigar outside of an airport, and strike a conversation, and you already know 5 or 10 things about them. That they're probably going to be a kind of person that's going to be easy to talk to. You're going to have some shared interest, and maybe even know what city they're coming from, and you've been to the lounges that they hang out, and maybe even know some of the same people. So it's really quite incredible.
I had an ex. I remember I was living in Pittsburgh at the time, and I was going to the lounge. She was in the passenger seat. We pull up on this guy, and I'm smoking in the car, and he just drops his window down. He's like, "What you smoking?" I'm like, "I got an LFD." He said, "Oh, I love LFDs." He's like, "Where you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to Smokers Friendly over there in Penn Hills." He's like, "Me too." He's like, "When I get there,
yeah,
I got a bottle for you. First cigar on me." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And he pulled off and everything. Showed to me like, "You know him?" Nope, never met him in my life. First time talking to this guy. Yep. You just instant it's bummed.
Not entirely rare either. I've been on an airplane, getting off in Dallas, and had my cigar case with me, the top of my bag, and the pilot, recognized the case, because it's a distinct cigar case, and and then chatted for a minute, and then turned out we end up meeting up at the cigar lounge that's like 20 minutes from the airport, and having a smoke and chatting the rest of the evening. And there's all kinds of things like that happen, and that's why I say the community aspects of cigar smoking are the thing that I think is you could qualify as being the most addictive, and especially in a world like we have today, men and women don't have a lot of opportunity to converse with each other, particularly on a level playing field, and be able to really get to know one another, and to demystify one another. You bump into people at the grocery store and all that. You go home, you look at the news, it looks like the world's burning down. And then you go out to a bar and you see a bunch of fights, and people are inebriated and things of that nature. And I'm not saying that people never get inebriated smoking cigars. Let's get real, but but I'm saying you'll find more willingness to get to know each other, as people. And in American culture, we used to have that in the barber shops and soda shops and libraries and all these different areas of American culture that have been, pretty well decimated as time has moved on. The modern day cigar lounge is one of the few places where you actually get to see American culture play out and all of its excellence, where people can come together with very, very limited understanding of one another and really get to know each other. So I value that immensely, and I think there's a reason why that is maybe not even as prevalent in other countries as well. But I think it is. I think it is a uniquely American thing.
I can agree with that. I've been to a lot of lounges in other countries where it's kind of like a library or something. Like they were like, you got friends and friends are talking, but like there's no like interact. Like how we be here, like you'll hear something, you'll laugh, and then you'll kind of go into. It's not like that. They talk to their friends, and it's like you smoke. You by yourself, you're just smoking.
Yep.
And you're just looking at TV or reading a book or something. There's no like interaction.
Kind of click. Yeah, it's kind of cliquish, in a way,
Very cool.
Yeah. So I've been to some places where they do well with that, or they do well with that with you being a foreigner. I have been to some places, to their credit, where they do really well with that. But I would say, whether you're in Atlanta, New York, LA, Phoenix, Texas, like you have a bond through a cigar as an American sitting at a table with somebody else that I see very few places in the world. And all the same, I mean, even us, down in Nicaragua, I mean, the culture of cigars as it exists here, there's not really an industry of cigars. The cigar companies here in the United States are businesses that engage in sales, promotion, marketing, pick, pack, and ship, distribution. That's kind of the entire U.S. market for cigars, right? The actual industry of cigars exists in places like Nicaragua, in places like the Dominican Republic, and so on. And I would say getting to know that side of the business, I think that was just such a mystery to me personally, and that's really what I wanted to learn and absorb, which I was just fortunate enough. I recognize the incredible fortune that I had to be able to make the decision to leave the United States and spend a lot of time not knowing any Spanish and learning. And I didn't know how to pay my power bill. I didn't know how to pay. I didn't know how to do any, because there's no, just like there's no book on how to be a good American, there's no book on how to be a good Nicaraguan. So I had to learn a lot. But yeah, actually learning that side of the business a little bit more, is incredible. And these people are so talented, so passionate. It's if you're a spiritual person at all, you can kind of start to make the connection between how cigars are a great equalizer for Americans, and then the people that are putting them together are artists and craftsmen and scientists in different ways, and so they're just really really unique people that you want to be around and you want to learn from whenever you go down there.
That's very yeah. But all right, man, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. This has been a great interview. Tell people where they can reach you at, man.
Yeah. Check out domaincigars.com. You can follow me at Daniel C. Lance on Instagram. And then Domain Cigars is our handle everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, and otherwise. Can check us out. We'll probably be in a lounge near you soon enough. Really looking forward to your review of our cigars.
Oh, before we get out here, PCA.
Yeah.
You going? Okay.
Yeah. We're in booth 941 on PCA, and our booth itself. I don't think we're going to actually make the shipment time for our booth, So we might be without our physical booth. So I'm trying to figure out how we're going to pull that together, because there's been some things going on with China in the news this year, as you guys might imagine. And basically there's like one boat that the booth can make it over on. So there's not a lot of places to buy booths from in the United States. If anyone has connections on booths in the US, please drop a link on this video. I'd love to check it out. So
definitely, yo, help him out, y'all. Help him out. Man, it's been fun talking to you. We definitely have to link up sometime, man. I appreciate you being on here. Thank you for that.
Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you for your time. We're gonna get up out of here, y'all. We out.
All right. Peace.
What's up, everybody? It's your local hero. Thank you for watching the video. I want you to like, share, subscribe. Catch us on YouTube, right here on YouTube. Make sure you catch us on YouTube. I want you to catch us on Facebook, Cigar Loungin Podcast, Rumble, Cigar Loungin Podcast, Spotify, Cigar Loungin Podcast, Anchor FM, Cigar Loungin Podcast, TikTok, Cigar Loungin Podcast. I want you to catch us on IG. You can catch us under The Gentleman or Cigar Loungin Podcast. Either one of those works. So go ahead. Thank you guys for liking the video. I hope you liked the video. And follow us on all our social media sites. We everywhere you get your shit from.